Madam, call the Joint Town Council special meeting and Budget Committee meeting of Thursday, April 10th at Arts Place to order at 7:39. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Sorry, my computer's updated. Peter Talbot.
Here.
Greg Wolf.
Here.
John Malone.
Here.
Dave Oliver. Don Walsh.
Here.
Trish Kramer. Here. Fiona Pearson.
Here.
Dina Allard. Here. And Jim Jakes. Chorus present.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was going to say we had plenty of time. Elizabeth, thank you for doing that. Housekeeping stuff. Thank you to Joanne for hosting us here this evening. It's a beautiful facility that I've had the opportunity to be in several times now. So anybody that hasn't, please do a tour before you go. It's worth the time you will spend. Thank you for your choice of room, because Mr. Kimball and I had a little side bet. I said we're going to be upstairs and to the left. He said we'll be upstairs to the right.
Shows what I know.
I want to also thank the rec department for being here. John Gawlak and Elizabeth Main. Sheila Adams is here as well from the community pool. I want to thank members of the Park and Rec Commission. Chairman Dr. Pat Duffy is here, as well as a long-standing member of the committee, Mike O'Donnell, so thank you. And as well as Environment Commission member Karen Schnitzer. And are you, Mr. Darter, are you still on a board or commission? I know you have been in the past.
I have been in the past.
Okay. So tonight you're just a member of the public, and we appreciate you being here.
I'm the taxpayer, yes.
With that, tonight we kick off with item 3, the proposed fiscal year 25-26 operating and capital budgets. And tonight we will be looking at recreation and then the subcategories of pool and arts place. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Kimball.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will lateral, because I know the time is short, I'll lateral straight to the Recreation Department, starting with John, and then between the two, Elizabeth and John. Sure, presenting the Recreation budget.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Before we get started, I just wanted to thank Elizabeth for a lot of work that she did to put together the packets that you have. They kind of try to outline and explain our ask and support and consideration for our operating budget for the next fiscal year. So, greetings. Before we dive into the numbers further, Elizabeth and I would like to direct you to the TV to review briefly our webpage, which includes the Parks and Recreation Department, the community pool, Arts Place, and the youth service programs. If you haven't been here or haven't been a regular visitor, it's a one-stop shop. It's been a great tool since we've put it to work almost about a year and a half now. The software manages all of our program registrations, rentals, passes, commonly used forms, and policies. The web page is used for us daily to update announcements about all kinds of things, and then field alerts or any type of programming or rec department, pool, arts place alert that band right up at the top. We use this primarily for all of our field cancellations. You don't necessarily have to have a
Member ID
or whatever. You could just go on there from your phone or from your tablet or your computer and get all this information right there. You will need to do it if you wanted to get into a program. If you recall, last year we made a decision to eliminate the printed brochure, which provides some big savings on productions and direct mailing, saving the ballpark of over 30,000 plus. We used to do 3 of those, direct mail to 9,000 homes. So we're fully using this digital management system and the web page functions. Elizabeth can also provide some Google Analytics Yes, or is that part of the packet?
That's part of the packet back there.
Just to illustrate how much traffic that the site does generate on a daily, weekly, monthly. It spikes when we're entering program seasons. You'll see on the average on some days, it's getting about 1,500 hits that people are on this page. Krista Massey, who works as a front office attendant, part-time basis, handles all of our social media marketing by designing graphics and marketing information, as well as all the wonderful titles on the main page that you see here that are connected right to programs. You can point, click, and it'll bring you to whatever you desire on that tile. I think there's some people that still miss the printed version, but I think as time goes on, we'll rely on this 100%. Our revenue has been trending higher over the last few fiscal years, and it's trending that way again this year. So it's been a very useful tool, and we appreciate being able to put it into service.
Hey, John, can I just ask, on the booklets, you said you're saving 30,000 by not doing the mailing?
So Elizabeth used to do all of these. She would get it camera ready. She would do everything in-house. We would send it to the vendor, whoever we used, to produce it, to print it, staple it, and then direct mail. It was combined, the mailing production was about 30, a little bit more than that.
The printing, not the postage, but
Oh, okay.
the
So just
assembly,
the-
so that didn't include postage.
That doesn't
But-
include postage.
But that was eliminated in last year's budget.
Right, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. But you haven't noticed a drop in,
We're actually trending in the positive.
yeah.
We're trending higher, and that's why we
Yeah.
provided you with some of this Google
Yeah.
Analytics of people that are hitting the site. Chris has done, she works part-time, which we'll get into a little bit later, but she does all of our social media posts. She's figured out when it's strategic enough for people, when people are actually going on their phones and getting it. So we're not doing it at night. It's times where it's consistent. And, our numbers, our programs are trending higher.
And I assume that people who have done it in the past will get an email or something to remind, or do they?
So this system allows, if you have an account, this system allows to do text alerts and email alerts if you signed up for those functions when you did.
Yeah.
So anytime that we do something special, or there's an announcement or something that just has to get out, we could do it an all-call kind of a thing, or we could do it specific to programs, age, gender.
Okay, good.
And you said that the 30,000 is just for the printing, that's not even the
I
postage?
thought it was combined, so.
Yeah, the postage came out of the finances budget. That was a separate line, so that was.
General services.
Sorry, yes, the general services line.
Any
So it's a lot of
estimation
money.
as to how much that is in addition?
$2 a pop.
Maybe 7? Was it 7 or 6 or 7?
It was around 7,
Times
I
3?
think. Yeah.
So all total, maybe 50,000
50,000 saved
Out of
by
that.
moving
by doing this. Okay,
This is some of the Google Analytics, like showing on this particular week that we had over 2,000 people visiting the site. A lot of them were registering. You'll notice at the front and back of this, there is a drop off because our page was unlinked from the analytics, so I don't have a true full year version, but when it was on, it was showing a lot of hits. We see a lot of high traffic as we launch our registrations on bad weather days. As we announce our basketball teams, those are days that we definitely see spikes on those. So
In evenings, I assume, more than,
we see this trend, we see more day stuff, and like on our Facebook analytics, which I think you have there, I was digging into that a little bit, and actually a lot of our use is between like 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. It really drops off after 6 p.m. So people hitting it first thing in the morning, throughout the day, and then once they're home doing family, they're back off of it.
Sorry, can you go back one, Elizabeth?
This one, yeah.
And, maybe it is. The box on the right then is actually live, that's actual statistics? Because that number has changed twice
Yeah.
while we've been here.
Right,
So there have been 12 active users in the past 30 minutes
right.
to the website.
she'll get off the webpage.
was there anybody here?
Not me, I'm the spreadsheet. Always
Yeah. So that was
Yeah,
my point, yeah.
I think that's
I turned it back on
fascinating.
today. That was
Good job.
good,
Can you go back to the homepage, please?
yes.
So another feature too, we've been working and coordinating with Department of Public Works. This was a big ask for them. When I was working with all the sport groups and organizations, doing my field planning and master schedule, they, for their needs and maintenance and scheduling men and deploying, materials, equipment, they wanted the calendar feature to really reflect live what's happening at any time, at any date at the park. So Elizabeth, you click that, it's got drop-down menus by location, by type, if it's a rental or a reservation. You can just go to Bartlett Park and pick a day and you can see, and there's also a little drop-down arrow where there's more at the end of the day, and then it will just fill up and populate everything that is for today outside of all the parks.
And like this is, for example, just the athletic fields, and it's tiny, but if you had it in your hand, there are 11 more. So this is the full athletic field usage.
Elizabeth, you can actually, I think you can go to the top right, you can go to day view.
Oh,
See.
sorry. Yeah, see, I always want to see big picture.
I know. You can see them somewhere. Wow, there's two.
There you go.
Well, that shows you all the afternoon, that's between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. It's so much of the use for.
So this allows Public Works to, schedule, needed maintenance or things that they want to do and make sure that they're not interrupting anything and the work gets done.
Do they schedule their time in there then so that nobody, like if they have to mow the lawn at a certain time or not?
No, they just do their thing. and
They just look at this and say,
or if
we'll
they-
work around it.
Or if they need something additional or it's creeping into something, we may have to call a group and say, hey, there's some needed maintenance that's got to take place.
But the public can see this too?
This is the public side.
Just
Yeah, so people can see who's reserving all the fields too.
that and pavilions, people will go in there if they want a date that they desire for a party or a picnic or a shower, they can go in and see themselves what's there and then call our office or go through. They can even fill out the form and send it. Comes to my desk, I approve it, it goes to the front office and they do all their things.
So this is one of the features to request it. You would have to log in to go through the request process, but it is all online now. That was a new thing we launched this year.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, and then all the youth leagues have entered, they've been really good about entering all of their information, their certificate of insurances, their contact information. It's actually been a busy January, February, March, but all systems go.
So if somebody's interested in signing their child up for baseball or soccer or whatever, they can come here and find that youth league's information on here?
Well, you can go there, can you go back, just where you were beating me to the punch, just really quick. Go up at the main menu on the front page, where it says contact, Elizabeth created a community contacts. And every year, we kind of put out an all call to really any community organization or program. It doesn't have to be athletics. If they want to put their thing there, it's another resource for our residents to find, a particular organization that interests them, and they can get all the information. And so we update that every year when I do my field meetings in February. So if they do have a change in leadership, they can just fill out a new form, Elizabeth will go on there, and boom, it's up there.
And if somebody's not aware and they want their organization on here, they can always email me a form at any time. We just renew them in January.
So it's nice, and it's nice having all four agencies together in one spot. And then there's the management side that we work out of daily, that kind of, gives us all of our financial information and all kinds of other good stuff.
This is the back end, this is the side that we see.
Anything else on it? So it was just important to illustrate that again. So in our budget, I know that time is of the essence. You have a packet here, there's the first page that says recreation. What we did was, Elizabeth just mirrored, what the budget book is. And after watching and hearing the news and watching multiple workshops that you folks have been grinding through, we went back again after Sean made his cuts to our budget to look at and squeeze as much things that we need to take maybe another look at. So if you look all the way to the right, the fiscal year 26 manager recommended, the final total was $938,389. since 2 weeks ago, Elizabeth and I, really mainly Elizabeth because of the programming and things that she does in our office, she ended up eliminating another $24,000, 614.
John, can you just point me where you're looking at?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So outside, if you take the analytics off,
It's
there's,
about 4 or 5 pages in, you'll see it.
Thank you.
so there's a page that looks like this, that has a lot of text. That's the backup or supportive to the stuff that I'm talking about that you could have for later maybe to read, or we can go through each one. I was just gonna really highlight the numbers and anything that's, you know, a deviation, and discuss that and then entertain any questions.
Perfect.
John, it's right, the page is right after the vertical written pages. the two written, right?
It says recreation in the left corner.
You're on it right there.
I got it.
The stapled one.
Deanie, you've got
Right before the stapled one.
that page right there.
It's not red letter.
That's it. It's this
Oh,
one.
the summary one.
Yes.
The summary one, this one.
Is it this one?
This one?
So that might be it.
Yes.
Oh, it's hiding. Thank you.
All right, so
I got it.
before we go
Thank you.
further, so there's a recreation, then there's one stable that says administration, and then another one recreation, and then celebrations at the end. Good?
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
So you can see where, just to double back, the final number that the town manager recommended, and then we went back and came up with another number, 913,775. And I'll go through how we got to this. Just one other consideration that's in the middle of the page, highlighted in red with the yellow shadow, is that Sean did cut my request for the front office attendant. She's really responsible for a lot of things, especially without the brochure. All of our social media, all of our marketing, and all the other things that go on administratively in the office. So we did back in.
Just, I didn't cut the position, I just cut the request for increase out.
Right, so right now she works 25, we were looking to add 10 more. So it amounts to about $12,000. Okay.
Is the 24,000 you just mentioned, John, is that included, Sean, in what you shared with us the other day?
No.
Or
So this is new, this is new today, and it's net of that, so the trade-off, so to speak, would be you can reduce that amount off of my budget. It does include the additional hours for that position.
Right.
But John and Elizabeth are able to identify further cuts for the request is tonight.
So but you said that's 12,000, but that makes her a full-time position? Does that becomes a full-time position from a part-time? And
She's
does,
full-
oh, she was,
She's 25 hours
but
now.
is there benefits involved?
Benefits, I think she's already benefits.
Yeah,
eligible.
She's already,
Yeah,
oh, she is,
she's in the
okay.
union.
Okay, so she's already in it,
Yeah.
okay.
So that 913 represents that 12,000 back in. So the net savings or additional cut is 24,614. If you go to the next page that's labeled administration, you'll see that there, the 5103 line. And then really on this page, the only other thing that we made cuts to, that Sean agreed to, was some promotional materials and then those legal notices. Legal notices for us, we wouldn't be going out to bid for anything next year. The ice cream mobile vending bid is a 2-year bid. This year's the first of the 2 years, so we wouldn't have to put anything else out for that. And I don't anticipate having any other bids for anything. So that was the savings there. You go to the next page of administration. If you go down to 5501 membership, we eliminated some associations that we've done, that we've had memberships to, that we could bypass for this year. And then 5502, the same thing with our annual conferences. That takes care of administration section. The recreation section, and I'm gonna turn it over to Elizabeth, because a lot of the reductions came through areas that she manages in our office.
So, these A lot of our revenues are tied directly to our temporary part-time line. These are areas that we felt that we could cut without impacting our revenue. So, for example, for the Mixville Adventure Camp staff, we typically staff so that we can host 100 campers a week. We have been averaging like 80 to 84 kids a week. So we cut this to 8 staff and we'll only be able to accommodate 80 kids. So we will be able to serve the majority of the kids that we are already seeing. Most weeks we're gonna accommodate everybody. There may be a couple weeks where that last minute person tries to come in on Monday and they're person 81 and we just can't accommodate them. We used to have that buffer to help that person at the last minute, but this eliminates that buffer. So that's where that reduction comes from, is from going to 12 to 10 staff. Another big place was the school building supervisors. We've been seeing a large increase in demand. So this just holds the demand where it is. Like say, whatever your hours were last year that I was able to staff in the schools, it has to stay the same. I'm not gonna be able to find extra hours here or there. So this just maintains exactly the number of hours that you had. Current fiscal year is what you'll be allowed to have next year.
This one?
Yes,
And it's not a big item, just so because I'm confused.
sorry.
As I look at this chart, when you went to the Mixville staff, there's 14 there, so where are the numbers you're talking about?
Sorry, so the 88,000, so we originally requested 96,000, so
And
just,
that's the 14, is that what you said?
so that includes 2 directors, so that probably should have come down to a 12, so I apologize for that. I worked on the actual numbers in the yellow column, the dark yellow column. I did not, I don't think, update that, so that should be a 12 in that one. For
So
the
it's
Mixville
12,
Adventure Camp staff, it's 12 instead of 14.
10 staff is what you're saying. Okay, it's not a
No,
big thing,
12
I just want to make
staff
sure I
instead
was
of-
following you properly.
12 instead of 10.
Okay.
12 bodies, because some of them fill like half-time positions. Then to jump down, so that was the school building supervisors, that's where we have our programs inside the schools, so keeping our programs to where they are, and also managing the outside youth sports groups, like the travel basketball, the Cheshire Soccer Club, Cheshire Youth Baseball, the Cheshire Youth Field Hockey, Cheshire Youth Lacrosse. A lot of those organizations get into the schools through the use of the school building supervisors that we provide, so that's a large expense in our budget. So this,
Elizabeth, could you just expand on that just a little bit in terms of what we're able to charge for that?
yes. So we were just able to increase that to $20 per hour. The staff person this year makes $17.69 an hour. So we are just breaking even
Basically,
on that.
cost.
So that number will need to increase because minimum wage will likely be raised on January 1. We have some assumptions in here for what we're guessing minimum wage is gonna be based on the trend. Every October is when we learn what it is because it's a state set. So, yeah, so we're currently charging $20. There's potentially an opportunity to increase that rate. It actually had been $28 back in like 2015. It dropped down to $15 in 2018? I'm sorry, I didn't bring that sheet
No,
with me.
2019, it was the year.
2019, we went from $28 down to $15 an hour that we were charging the outside. And now we're back up at 20 so that we're not losing money on this venture and at least we're covering the cost of that staff person who's there. So that,
So that just covers the staff person, right? That like if a staff person at a school that's using like the gym or something,
correct.
do you know if the schools charge for the use of the gym?
So the reason this exists.
Yeah.
Has a little bit of a ridiculous history, but it is tied to the fact that you can rent directly through the schools, but the cost is like 2 or 3 times higher. And so
Your bargain.
groups, remember, the schools offer us the use for our programming at no cost, right? Or in our case, our own cost would be for our own programming, the cost of that building supervisor to be there to set, the schools just require we have someone there. The outside groups that started with travel basketball and others, about 7 years ago, didn't like the cost that the Board of Ed was charging. And so to accommodate them, the town lowered our cost to basically, minimum wage was $15 an hour, so we were charging 15. To be honest, over the last couple of years, as minimum wage got higher, we were still only charging 15, so we were just losing arguably money. But it's only because the Board of Ed's costs are so high that the groups come.
So they pay the Board of Ed for the use of the gym,
No, they pay us.
$20 an hour.
They pay the cost of that.
So the gym is, so the travel basketball league is
Remember,
using.
the schools don't charge us.
Right.
For when we're using And so in this case, travel basketball or anyone else is using that relationship, so to speak, so that they pay for our building supervisor, and then they get access to the same gym.
And administratively, it's really difficult on Elizabeth because she's entertaining a lot of these requests, that the process takes a lot of time to reach approval and then get back to that person that's making the
What's the
request.
cost difference between the $20 and what the Board of Ed charges?
It used to be double at least.
I believe it's
Like 40.
65,
It might be something.
and they do currently pay that for games because we only host practices. When they're bringing in spectators and out-of-towners and need extra access to like scoreboards and things, that's out of the realm of my staff. So we just provide the person to unlock the door, let them into the gym. Anytime that there's more involved, like if there's food, if there's scoreboards, if there's spectators, then they do have to go through the custodian, through the Board of Ed system and pay the custodial rate, which.
So we're not using the
About
same
65.
people, where you bring in your own people to do it versus your people are
They bring in
someone not
union.
union and they have union. And that's-
If you didn't provide that service, people would be paying more money to use the same space.
Definitely.
Yeah, 3 times.
Would they pay that?
They came to us and complained about it.
I think overall, the amount they wanted to use it, it was cost prohibitive. It was being represented as cost prohibitive.
And it probably still is a bargain if they were to go find a private location. And so they probably still would be glad to pay it. They would want to because of what exists, but.
And this is only Cheshire organizations.
Correct.
So out-of-town organizations don't use the,
That's correct.
I mean, it just seems like, from what you said, and I don't know if it amounts to anything, there should be like a blanket administrative fee on top of the hourly fee for every time they do it, so you can cover all the additional time you're spending on this. That it would be fair, it would be cheaper probably, if you're charging like $50. Every time you use a gym, there's a $50 administrative fee because we have to go through a lot of administrative effort to do it. I don't know if it will amount to anything.
Well, I look at it as heat costs, taking care of the gym, the bathrooms, everything else, all that stuff.
The board
is losing money because they gotta clean all that up after. And I think we really need to take a deep dive into some of this, maybe not this year, but I think it's something that.
But, yeah, it's an opportunity, I know we talked about, we put up on the mill rate calculator the other day, raising revenues in the
Right.
department, which we'll talk about here in a minute. That could be one of the ones I'm not saying we get the whole way, but maybe you get raised $10,000, $15,000.
Right.
Hopefully Jeff's not watching because he'll remind us of that.
Stolen revenue.
Any other questions on that one? No, good. The youth center building supervisors, we had a higher number because we were hoping to keep the building open so that we could accommodate broadening our programs and just having the facility open for like people generally using like the basketball courts, the tennis courts. If there was a meeting that needed to happen, we would have a staff built in. This new fee, the $13,000, reflects us only staffing when we have programs. So there's no buffer there to allow us to expand the program. So this is just based on real numbers that we had last year and then increasing the minimum wage, not staffing it for like 4 to 9 at night. Mixville Rangers, there's also a significant change. The Mixville Rangers are the person that, if you've been to Mixville, they're the ones who are in the gatehouse and who check the passes. And there are 2 of them because there's often a line, and one of them will be roving around the park if it's quieter, helping to pick up trash, and just maintaining the peace in the park and making sure everybody's having a positive experience. What we're doing is reducing that to only 1 person on weekdays, and we're shifting the hours, we're condensing the hours a little bit, so we took a couple hours off the weekdays and also have just 1 person on weekdays instead of 2. And then on the weekends, we're keeping 2 because it just doesn't, with the volume of traffic on the weekends, we just can't manage it with 1 person. And there will also be a supervisor 7 days a week there, so no staff person is alone when you're dealing with that volume of people. So there will always be 2, so there will be a backup there. So those are the reductions here, and the smaller reduction are just because we condensed the hours a little bit based on when we saw the highest traffic at the park. And then the tennis staff, there was a jump there because we were proposing adding extra weeks of tennis camp because, as you all know, the schools are going to be finishing several weeks earlier in June, so we had an opportunity to add more weeks of tennis lessons. We just backed that out and said, let's just run our traditional camps, let's not put the extra expense into the tennis staff right now. We'll offer other programs that we can kind of absorb other workplaces. Let's not go all in on tennis for the month of June 26th. So that's the big changes in the temporary part-time line.
Or take background checks and then the
Yes,
CPR.
yep. Yeah, so I know that we were asked to reduce some of the expenses in our CPR certificates, our EpiPen certificates, our medication administration certificates. We're finding that a lot of our staff are turning over and needing those recertified. The cost per certificate is also going up, so we really can't absorb that cut because the staff has to be certified to be around the children at camps and at programs. So we're requesting that that be kept as it was.
And if you turn the page of recreation, the other deviation is the line 5408, program services. We made a reduction in the different types of entertainment we were going to bring to our adventure camp at Nicksville. And then over the last 3 years, we've been bringing in somebody to, as part of our weekly orientation with staff, to someone different than us to lead us through, you know, leadership, problem solving types of things. And we just made an adjustment there. If you go to the last page, it's celebrations. If you go down to 5408, the program services, Memorial Day Parade, we adjusted by $2,500 to eliminate some performers for the parade, some of the bands,
Right.
which we're not getting a good response as the last couple of years for other bands to come, other than the middle school and the high school band. Bartlett Beats, we've started our sponsorship drive already. We've had out of the gate for, I think, 3 weeks now. We've been pledged $10,250, and we've actually collected $8,000. So we reduced that ask for, by $8,000. And then, talking with Sean and looking at the last council meeting workshop with the Fall Festival, along with the fireworks goes insurance that's split with the chamber, $500. So that would be $6,000 total. And then would we want to eliminate the $1,500 that we would help them pay for entertainment on Friday? You know, should they seek a sponsor for that?
Yeah, so just a reminder, I put up on the mill rate worksheet 5,500, just because that was specifically the fireworks line. John's right, we could also cut another $500 if you wanted to not pay our share of that insurance, which we have split. And then the bands is a Friday night thing, I think that we also have paid $1,500. So just items to consider. I only put $5,500 in. If you cut all of those, it would be $7,500.
Yeah, 8,000 total, right? With the 50, if you take the 15 from the entertainment.
Yeah, plus 500, plus 500.
Yeah.
75.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was adding in the 500 chamber, claim that is savings for us.
Oh, the other, yeah.
Yeah.
They're fine.
What I was thinking was, if you went out to sponsors, you'd have to raise $8,000 total. That would cover insurance and fireworks.
In the chamber we do that, but
Yes.
yes, yeah, that's right. One of us.
Okay.
John, can I ask you a question, because I don't know how it works, the Bartlett Beats, the 34,000 for the stage and sound, so the way it works is, how many concerts do you have, and we pay for stage and sound for each
4.
concert? And that's divided by 4. And that's,
So this year, it was kind of challenging, because I needed to go out to bid so that we could get entertainment. We've had some delays with the band shell, not knowing, other than just what was architecturally designed, and the beam having a certain load. We needed some information, so the number here is a little higher than we had anticipated. I didn't go out to bid, but I used a state contract that Power Station has with the state of Connecticut for audiovisual services. So they itemized all the things that they thought that they would need at the stage, like some rigging, that before that trailer, that stage line trailer that came, all that rigging and lighting is all part of that. They would just take some of the electronic components back and set that up. Well, that rigging takes labor, and it's a little bit more. So that's the number. I think it was a $250 differential cheaper than it has been the last couple of years through the bid that we had with them. But now, once we see the stage and see how the stage performs, then some of that can go away probably next year. We would still need some lighting and some sound mixing if we wanted to go that way, but there's other options. But for this year, I did not want to have a beautiful stage and then not have the production that residents are used to getting. So it's still less than last year. By about
So the
1,000 bucks.
34 one is, so it's a conservative number or it's the right number? for
It's
this
the
year?
right number.
It's the right number, that's what it's gonna be.
It's
this year.
$1,000 less
With
than last year.
And that's with all the
Lighting-
structure and everything in
Lighting,
place?
sound, and the rigging that they would need to go to accompany the stage. It
So
may
we're not
be,
gonna have that there, though? I thought that the lighting, the sound and ringing, we weren't putting into the system there, we just have
They're not-
no lighting?
we just have a show, you just have the
There's
ancillary lighting
stage
as
lighting,
part of
you know,
the,
right? Not like.
it's not the dramatic
There's not
theatrical performance.
stage
The
lighting.
laser like show.
It's not the
still
performance
power.
lighting.
Yeah, right.
The Stones won't come unless we do that.
What?
The Stones won't come unless we do that, so.
I'm sure.
John, what do you budget for Bartlett Beats revenue? Or where it is? Because I know you said you had 8,000 committed.
You're talking about sponsorships?
The
Yeah.
sponsorships.
Yeah, because that's the only revenue.
Yeah,
But where does that hit?
He takes it right off it reduces the expenditure line.
Okay.
It's not, doesn't come in as
But
separate.
he's got 10,250 committed,
right.
and he's hoping to get 15 maybe?
We've been averaging probably about, well, our two best years were 3 years ago. We had 15.5 and 15. I think last year it was a little over 12. And that's the thing too, is that you know, some of the businesses are struggling and not so many people are standing up and saying, you know, here you go. And then also Ball and Socket, at the same time that we had put ours out, they put out a whole sponsorship package for their concerts that they have here. So that could maybe cause a little bit of a shift in, I'm gonna do this one, not that one.
Yeah, and I know they do that. I think somehow we have to start to work together on this, because it's just, being a business owner in town, I mean, we're getting hit both left and right, and you can only choose so many to do this with, and I think, you know, perhaps if you guys can sit down with the Ball and Socket people and say, hey, you know, how can we work together on this so that we're not hitting up all the same businesses every time? Because I know as my business, every week, I'm getting 1 or 2 requests.
Sure.
There is a proposed fifth concert, I believe it's a partnership with Ball and Socket in the works.
So yeah, they were able to secure a grant. We split our calendar at the, for Bartlett Beats. So we'll operate 2 concerts, July 11, 18, and then we gave Ball and Socket July 25th. They have a big band, the Dan Pugash Big Band is coming, and they have their own sound people. And it's right now, their request is going through the whole public gathering permit process that's circulating through other departments.
And
They have to add on police or fire or whatever else.
They do it at Bartlett?
They're
They-
gonna do it on the stage.
John, going back to recreation, the camp stuff that you have for summer, are those all the same ones that you have been doing the last several years, or do you have to drop any, or?
I'm sorry, I didn't get.
So then here on recreation, are
On
these all
recreation.
the are these all pretty much, you know, the same standard things that we're doing? Do we have to drop anything?
We are reducing the number of weeks of tennis, so we're keeping the same as we have forecast for this year, for next year. Mixville Camp, we're just taking less kids. We usually budget to try to bring new programs in. We're keeping this for just keeping everything what we have. We're not gonna be recruiting a lot of new instructors to try and bring as many new programs in, which we have been doing in the past. So it's not eliminating programs, it may be cutting a small amount of participants, and not expanding our programs.
Correct, okay, that's what I wanted to get at. Nice.
Is there appetite for growth?
We frequently get people coming to us with new ideas for programs, and we only run them if we can cover the full cost of the class. So if we have the funds in our budget to pay another staff person, then we would run the program and drive up our revenue. because we're charging people to come to that class.
And generally classes pay for the staffing.
Yes, yep. There are the rare occasion, like we do have some special events that are free programs, like Winter Wonderlands. Most of those are covered in celebrations. If we are one shy on a program, there's often another program that has well exceeded it. So there are a few that run tight, but the majority of them do bring in revenue.
Just one more note on summer camps, and I think I say this every year, but just a reminder, it's a real challenge from a budget standpoint, because the fiscal year ends in the middle of summer camp season, right? So the year end, you're budgeting for right now, July 1st of '25 through June 30th of next year, which of course is squarely in the middle. Some years that doesn't matter as much. These next 2 summers are going to be a little interesting because the Board of Ed is ending summer earlier this year, and they're starting it later in the following year in order to have the maximum amount of time to transition between the two schools. And so there is a week. I think the proposed calendar for the next year actually has the first day of school at Labor Day right after, 2 years from now. This year, it's actually they're going back to school a little earlier so that they can end the school year in
We're
early
getting
June.
good days.
Right, and so there will be another week there where parents might be expecting summer camps, you know, June, I don't know, it depends on snow days, but let's say June 10th or 12th. When other years that might not have been until the 19th. So Elizabeth does a great job of mapping that out, but those are both opportunities for additional campus revenue, but also challenges where things can be.
So a pleasant find, it's not in here, I was going through all my budget documents and current capital accounts. And if you recall, last year there was, for 24-25, parks and open space improvements. We had $100,000 for various types of projects, general signage, the pickleball court, the disc golf course at Cheshire Park, and then open space improvements. So out of the 100,000, I had slotted 15,400 for open space stuff that I shared with my friend Karen, because now I'm the Environment Commission staff liaison. So they were very happy last night. So there's a bunch of things that we have, we put together, Sean Henry put together a great project plan for all the different open spaces and broken out by different needs and things that we're gonna attack, different priority groupings, high, critical, medium, low. And then signage, that's the big one, the sign, start signing a lot of the open space. So I just wanted to share that, but you don't have to find some more money. I think you had made a reference to it the other night at the council meeting. So we have that money that we're gonna work together on.
Trent, just a celebration stuff.
School and get an environment to look for.
The tree lighting, it was originally $1,000 for last year, and then it's gone up. I gotta say, I mean, you guys did a fabulous job. I think there were a lot of people there, and I would not cut that out at all. I just,
2,700 to be exact.
yeah, wow,
We have this new AI tool that we're going to be using.
wow.
So
It
part of
was
it-
fabulous. I mean, you guys did a great job, and kudos to pulling it off the way you did.
We had a lot of help on Public Works too.
Yes, I know, and just the wagons pulling the kids around and adults and stuff was great. But, you know, that was only $1,000, or that was,
So if you look down at the bottom, contractual services, there's 11,000, and then there's the
supplies.
supplies.
So you're buying more supplies this year?
We ran out of some of this, we ran out of several things, yes.
Okay. Getting more tin-made suits.
Possibly.
Okay.
And then some of this can go away if we can get our friends at Public Works to build another wagon.
Oh,
They just pushed it up.
There you go. So you can make an adjustment here.
okay.
How much are we going
Couple thousand.
$2 million.
Also in your packet, and I wasn't sure where you wanted to go, but Elizabeth put together pavilion rentals, Mixville Pass, actual quantities and costs and suggestions, what the Mixville Rangers cost us, program resident fee, non-resident fee increases in different denominations. I also put in there what some other towns, our state association has an email listserv that I can pump out a question. and colleagues from other towns, most times will respond back and give you information that their community is doing. So I put together a field fees, lighting fee, and if towns institute a per player fee. And then you'll see one of the sheets also has this year's tallies for all of the youth organizations and adult organizations that are using our fields. By participants, their number, total number in their organization, and then by teams. I don't know if you wanted to review all that, talk about it another time.
No.
Which one is it?
Kind of everything else.
I think the only note I would, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, the only note on that, again, I don't think in granular detail, in the settling tonight, but just remember in the mill rate assumption spreadsheet we put up, we had an assumed additional $100,000 of park and rec revenue. I think John's, is prepared to talk about, and we can get into as much detail as you like, or challenge, the rec commission to approve a fee schedule that would get to that number, if that's even possible. But that's what the assumption is now. So I want to make sure we're not, we're realistically counting on what we're counting on. If that's not the right number, we need to lower it. That's a discussion we can have tonight.
The 100,000, or,
No, that was,
We put 100,000 in there as revenue for,
okay, for us.
for you. But from 400, I think we were 430,000, and we hit 480 last year. Theoretically, it was 100,000 off the 430, we went to 530. So if you hit the same number again, maybe it's 50,000 more, but it would be budgeting and then expecting to hit that number. That's 100,000 than what we had in my proposed budget. So that's at least from the conversations. Council's had a little bit on that, and if that's anything from those gym usage discussions, or raising non-resident fees, or charging for lights at Bartlett, if people, there's all those considerations. Again, I know the rec commission is much closer to those issues, at least on a regular basis, monthly, as they discuss those things, but the conversation with council is
Because
continuing.
one of the things I brought up during the public works talk was, I asked if what we're getting for use of fields offsets the cost of maintaining, and then we're not even close to that. And, I've had a couple residents send me tax returns on some of the groups that use these fields, and their assets are pretty high, and they feel that, they not be paying their fair share. So I don't really know, you know better than me, what other towns are charging, whether it's soccer groups, baseball groups,
So
football
yeah,
groups.
if you look at that sheet, it says field fees.
John, why don't you hold it up so people see it?
This one here, it's a little yellow box at the bottom.
It was towards the end of the packet, last 3 pages.
So up in the left corner, it says town, then field fee, lighting fee, and then if you wanted to institute a per player fee, these are the towns that have responded back to my email query. So you can see Southington, Berlin, Wallingford is all around us. Neither one of those towns charge their recognized youth and adult league fees, field fees.
Which we don't either.
Berlin, of the three, charges a $60 2-hour minimum for lights. And then Berlin also tried to propose a $2 per person fee, but their rec commission dismissed it immediately. The other two towns, Wallingford or Southington, doesn't. Just as a footnote, if you go down to the yellow box, Wallingford provides each league with a $3,000 subsidy, and there's probably about 12 or 13. They also subsidize summer theater and some other things. Southington provides 11 organizations on a sliding scale based on their enrollment. That pot of money has $88,000. So football and cheer would probably get a lot. Southington soccer probably would get a lot. Baseball, softball, because it's smaller, would not get as much, that kind of thing. But they don't charge anything. If you look at Wilmington, they don't charge for practice fields, but they charge $30 a game. But then don't charge for lights and don't have a per player fee. It's kind of like all over the place.
Yeah.
New Milford just started this year a $250 per field for a season per group fee. So if you're CYB, for example, there's the 4 fields, you'd be paying the town $1,000 for the season. and then another 1,000 for the fall season. Or you could just look at the other sheet and, you know, there's the, I put together the enrollment totals. And the tally down at the bottom of all the different groups is 2,600 people. $10 is $26,000, $20 is $46,000 per person, per season.
Well, do you think you can make up the money that Sean's talking about regardless of this, John? I mean, is it $50,000 on top of what you did last year, is that what you're saying?
It's always a
And I
goal.
think they'd have to change,
That's always a goal.
yeah, I mean, they have to probably change the fee schedule, I would say. It's a lofty goal, just hoping that.
And is it too late to even have it in this year's budget? I mean, because your schedule and everything's out, right? So can you really even do it now?
There was one year that we raised pavilion fees after a budget meeting. The increased pavilion fees went into effect July 1, when the new budget happened. We saw some revenue increase in that July-August period, but the majority of our rentals happen from February through June, so a lot of the money was already received. It was only the people who were renting like in September, but it was only by the person who like made the sale after July 1, they paid it. We would see a lot of it in the fiscal year because we bring in the revenues for summer 26 in March, April, May 26. But that would be up to you guys to decide if it's a January 1 implementation or a July 1, but it's been done in the past.
But it doesn't look like we want to differentiate ourselves by trying to charge a lot more for the use of fields and things, because that's not consistently being done out there. We would just be penalizing people, our organizations in Cheshire. That's what I'm seeing from this chart here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Do we have any out-of-town groups that want to, or do we even have availability?
So, the Rec Commission has a moratorium on the turf field, and there's a whole fee structure there that we need to, that we haven't even really visited. We've just discussed it over a couple, different meetings, because there's also that public works maintainer component too, that if you want to. If you look down at the yellow box, I got emails from these people, and I spoke to a majority of the directors there. A lot of towns they're reducing their field rentals because of issues with fields being overplayed, and then people don't respect the fields. They come in for a tournament, they're getting the fields for nominal fees. They're willing to pay the fees because they're charging all these groups, and they're getting volume of teams to play. So it's not a big deal. And then, your residents are left with fields that maybe need to be repaired. We don't take any kind of deposit for anything, or like a bond, maybe we should probably look to do, just so that, when people do that, if we do entertain rentals of the grass fields anyway, that we have some security that, if something does go awry, it kind of keeps them honest.
Yeah, and just a reminder from the public works conversation, I think that number for fertilizer was like $80,000 to $90,000 a year. We have discussed in council's past, John and I have discussed many times, the idea of having a special revenue fund or seeking some special additional fund if you wanted to charge. Some of these groups might be more inclined to pay for something if they knew the dollars were going to support that particular field, that effort. There was a history of a lot of these leagues paying for either clay or sometimes equipment or fertilizer, or doing a lot more. The other thing is they're doing a lot more kind of work themselves. That volunteerism, I think, has gone down a little bit, but
It's killed, but my senior advisors have, shared with me what it used to be before I got here. Cheshire Soccer used to donate a lot of money. I think the CYB used to buy $10,000 worth of clay every year.
right. So there may be an opportunity
So-
there that we have not been getting that in the last few years.
It should be just a sit down, kind of like a coalition type of thing.
Or something that goes into a Friends of Cheshire Recreation, gift account that you guys can use to offset field costs.
Well, you're trying to keep, like, with the clay stuff or the quick dry stuff, you don't want them But
We have.
they were paying weight, they were making it like cement after a while, right?
Well, what happens is it breaks down the content of the clay, so when you get like in the summer or like late spring, it's like dust and powder, and you don't have clay anymore. So
Right.
then you gotta scoop that out and then come back with more material. So my first year, I outlawed it.
Right.
And they ended up saving their own money and their own lead
Right.
budgets, because they were buying pallets of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, like, what about, like, I see, like, we have, like, jamborees, like a lacrosse jamboree or a football jamboree. Is there any, do we charge for any of that?
So we do charge, not a field fee, but Cheshire Youth Lacrosse, the girls does the Ram Jam the second weekend in June. They hire a DPW maintainer, and they hire a police officer for traffic. It's different this year because now we have 186 new parking spots.
Right.
Still may need to have traffic control at the light for some people going across the street to school. The boys do their tournament at the high school, so there's no charge there. And then we haven't had, the other lacrosse group for the last 2 summers, so we're really not renting a lot of the fields to outside groups. And to be honest with you, I mean, our fields are tired, there's not a lot.
Yeah.
And so, while the revenue sounds good, it's, what is Public Works dumping into the fields to make them look good,
Well,
so.
good luck finding that 50,000.
John, can I just say, this is a small question. The fields at the schools, like the ones behind the tennis courts or on the other side of the parking lot at the high school, there's a couple of softball fields there. I see them used occasionally.
Well,
I'm
they're
not
used-
sure. Are
They're
they-
used full-time.
I walk through a lot where they're not being used, so maybe it's full-time, but it's not all the time. I mean, I walk there a lot, and they're most of the time not being used, so I don't know what.
So the seasons are just starting now, it's the first.
I
week
know
of
that, I know that, but even during season,
Oh,
that's all right. And so, are those?
Cheshire Youth softball
And those are
at the high school.
high school facilities. Now, what about any other fields on the other schools that are they're all being used?
We used the one at Doolittle, we used the 2 at Chapman, we used the 1 at Highland.
How about the baseball field?
The one at
the
Darcy.
high school?
I'm sorry?
Baseball field at the high school?
We would, and that's why it was, we were okay with losing the big diamond, the Kevin Simmons field, which is now the turf field,
Yeah.
because there wasn't enough big diamond baseball being played. Right now, it's all concentrated on the smaller fields,
Okay.
which, if things trend, it could go that we would need it, but no one else uses the summer, the varsity field at the high school in the summer. We used to have Dennis Boucher used to have a collegiate team that was using it, but there's not enough Babe Ruth or older intermediate Reds teams playing at that age that require it. So a lot of that stuff is being taken care of at Bartlett Field 1.
And then one other thing, and I don't play pickleball, but is there charges for pickleball courts, or are they just all free?
It's open like a basketball court.
Even at nighttime when we're
Tennis
lighting
court.
them?
Yeah.
Should we consider charging them at nighttime? No? I know there's a lot of out-of-towners that use our courts.
Would be, like, we'd have to hire somebody to do that.
Yeah, you got the expense of having somebody collect the revenue.
And the youth center, like, run for regular tennis, we got to do it there also.
I'm sorry?
The youth center tennis courts lakes run at night too, so we'd have to have somebody there, because you couldn't say we're gonna charge the pickleball people to use the court, but not the tennis people.
I see.
But we've
Yeah,
only,
No, I understand the
yeah, we've
question.
only had half of them, the youth center lights. Elizabeth set the timer, so we weren't.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where those aren't.
Yeah.
We did have a quote, what was it, about $20,000, I think? You had GC get a quote for maybe a button activated
You know when
system
you,
there, but it was 20,000, we just.
GC
Wow,
Electric,
pay that back.
Debit card act.
do you know when we upgraded the basketball, wanted the basketball lights upgraded? I had asked them, I said, in Wallingford Electric Division did our tennis courts at Doolittle Park, were they the same type of system that's at Cheshire Park for the pickleball? You press the button and you get an hour's worth of time, and there's that little strobe that when you get to like 55 minutes, that strobe will go on, and someone, if you wanted to play within the time frame that the lights can be allowed to be on, you hit that button and it gives you that extended play. So after 10:30, you hit that button, the lights aren't coming on. And then, of course, when it's raining or bad weather, you're not letting
I'm just saying, we don't want to ever aggravate pickleball players. And I'm sorry, attest to that. You will see. that
Several of them
they'll
are
start
complaining to me
having
about the
traffic.
lights aren't bright enough. I'm like, well, at least you can see. I mean, I don't know.
No, it's a strong community.
Oh, I know that, I know, there was a lot of people that went to Cheshire that took a loan, I know that.
So is there any place where we could, you could see that we may be able to raise some of those fees to,
I would not like to see it in Mixville. I mean, it's always been my position, I'd like to see Mixville actually not have any fees. But I know that we've talked about that a lot in the past, but.
Try to
already
maintain increased
Yeah, I
usage?
stopped going to Mixville in this town when they started charging. And I used to live on the west side of town. And
I've had other people complain to me about that as well.
it's a public, good, it's a public space, it's a beautiful space, I'd like to go, but I just feel that it should be available for residents.
The
So
problem
that-
is, if you don't, if you do it free for residents and then you charge out-of-towners, is there an issue with that
That's
with the state?
discrimination, that's right for
So you'd have to
discrimination.
charge you'd have to give it to out-of-towners.
And I could have,
You charge
parks in other
differentials.
towns, and so I think our public parks should be public spaces. But that's my position.
but that's the only.
But we could look, I mean, I know that you've been looking
The
at the
pavilion,
fees for
I
the
mean-
turf field, I mean, that's something, that's to be in the future.
And I don't even know if you really want to rent the turf field out
Yeah.
to out-of-town groups. I get calls every spring, semi-pro football teams, men's soccer teams, soccer clubs from as far as Newtown that want to be on that field. West Hartford, they have an 8:30 shut-off only for their youth leagues. They don't allow any non-resident light use on their fields. That was on that chart.
Yeah.
So it's
And I think
interesting.
that's been
what-
the argument is that because we have so much demand in town, we just want to potentially keep this reserved for people in town but not charge.
What,
I have a non-budget question before we go for recreation, but I'll let it go for now.
question, how much, and I'm trying to get, is there anything in here about, I know you said about pavilion rentals. Is there, are our fees relatively in line with what you might see in other places? I mean, obviously, I don't want to be one of the problems you always see is whenever you raise fees, for rental charges, you may lose some of that.
I think we're in the ballpark. I think if you go higher, then we're gonna get into that area where, other towns are cheaper.
Right, and people may not, you may lose a couple rentals that you would have had otherwise.
But the other thing is that, our pavilions are a little bit nicer, they're kept better, there's electricity, it works, there's lights there. So there's some amenities that some of the other towns don't have, and that's why they're cheap.
And if you wanted to look over some of the options, that's a stapled sheet there, so we show the 2024, it was easier to show it by the calendar year because we don't really know what we're seeing this year fully. So the top page is what we had last year, and then the second page shows two different proposals for if you were to increase them, if you just didn't look to the second one. So it shows potential additional revenue of going up $50 on the smaller ones, $100 on the larger ones. There's a potential additional revenue if the numbers stay the same, if we have the exact same number, which we don't know. There's a potential for $10,000 at that rate, or if we went up a more dramatic thing where we went up $100 and $200, there's a potential for $18,800. But again, that would mean that everyone was willing to pay that higher rate.
So is the 437 number the number or the number with the projected additional increases?
Projected.
That's the
The
projected.
front page is the actual, the 24,425, that's the actual this past year.
You're back on that, catch-all sheet.
The big
That
square.
was the original submission that we had,
The revenue was, so what is the revenue that's projected now with, at 437 is the revenue projected with increased fees? Sean, is that correct?
No, this was just what we expected based on the rates that we were planning to charge when we came into budget back in January. So the 437 is what we were suggesting that we could raise for next fiscal year when we prepare this in January. And there's opportunity to adjust fees, but we didn't.
So that doesn't represent the opportunity to adjust fees, that's the number.
Yeah.
So the net 476 is where we are right now, without an increase in fees. Is that correct?
Say that again, Joe?
Which page?
Just that last
Summary.
Summary.
Yeah,
So we
no,
developed
what was the number you said though?
The net 476.
So that's us reducing our
Okay.
expense requests
Yes.
and maintaining our, what we think we would bring in for revenue. There is an opportunity to increase revenue probably, some places smaller than others, and we just need to decide where that's gonna be.
When was the last time you increased the pavilion rent?
I've been here 6 years and we haven't.
15 maybe, it's been about 10 years.
Make the time.
So maybe that's one.
Yeah.
And we do, if there's a lot of non-resident rental
And to
requests.
be honest, with you, $200 to rent it, or $600 for a big and small, that's not a lot of money. I mean, it's $400 to rent a large pavilion, I think is a decent price. Correct me if I'm wrong, did I remember seeing somewhere that some of the tables are gonna need replacing and stuff, or did we already do that, or?
That was at the pool.
I thought at the pavilion too, no?
That might be a public works thing.
Oh, maybe that's where I saw it.
Back to just the revenue, I think I said 100,000 earlier, but it's actually 500,000 is what we assumed in the budget adjustment. It was 437. So
we went to
it's actually a difference of 63,000. I
We
would
said
say
500 right now in the last.
500 is what we put when we did the monthly, and that was, you know, small. We put that aggressive and we wrote, yeah, we wrote JG needs to adjust to meet this number.
Thanks for the moment.
Well, if you increase the pavilion rentals and you get the same amount, that's.
So we're trying to find
60,000 right there.
All right, so in the essence of time, so we're looking for, I think, to give John and the commission some, where to look, or some guidance, I guess is the, we're looking at 63,000 for revenue. Is that correct then, Sean? Which is the 500 minus the 437 that was in there.
Yes,
As
on the
their
revenue page, yes.
adjusted department.
Yeah.
Okay, and then from savings, the savings in addition to town manager recommended,
Right.
there was 24,614. And that included the addition back in of the 12,441 for the part-time. But then we identified through this process during discussion, 2,000, which was fireworks, insurance, and entertainment for Friday Night Fall Festival, totaling $2,000. So Sean gets an additional number of 26,614 that he can add to.
Peter, was that 2,000 for the fireworks was 5,500?
The fireworks is already taken off.
Oh, okay.
But this is additional to what Sean has already done.
Yeah, the insurance.
There was 500 for insurance and 1,500 for entertainment for Friday night.
Okay.
So 2,000. So Sean's got a bogey of 26,614 that can come off of department, the recreation department expense.
Peter, just one question.
Yeah,
Elizabeth calculated that. in
That
her-
2,000 was included. The 500 on the celebrations sheet.
oh, okay.
That was already included.
That was
in
part of the 24,614?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. I just, because it showed there as still there, so.
It shows
No,
us
it
a
has a
negative
minus
below.
If you look at the 2 lines below it.
I tried to call extra attention to the cuts because I know those were gonna be sensitive.
Perfect. All right, so Sean's got 24,614. Okay.
Can I ask a question? We have a question?
Yeah.
The insurance, are you gonna make the chamber pick up the other 500 to cover the insurance on the fields for the fireworks, or are we just gonna roll the dice?
Well, right now, we've canceled the fireworks. So unless the chamber comes up with sponsors,
So they have to
and
cover the
we're
insurance
recommending
and that?
that they go out for a sponsorship for the full 8,000,
Okay.
which will cover the 550, the 1,000 for insurance, and the 1,500 for the Friday entertainment.
That's what, make sure just in case it was there, it was insurance. Well,
Yep.
Yeah, it's brand new. Okay.
So
Everybody good?
Are we giving the commission any direction as far as like, I thought maybe the pavilions are an area where we could look at increasing rates, right?
I think we, they've got the guidance of the number. I think they work with John, they do a great job, I think. Theo and I will vouch for the commission and their work with the department, and I think they'll figure out what is the best way. I don't want to sit here and give them recommendations
Right.
when they may have a better, end to the mean.
Sure.
As long as we know we can look to raise some rates.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and that's,
As
yeah,
long as we're gonna.
yeah, in conjunction with John, I think that's what we're saying. What could bend a little bit, the fees that haven't been raised in,
Okay.
10 years.
So we would propose maybe at our next meeting and then come back to you for approval of those?
Yeah, well, yes, because they have to come for approval anyway, but understand that we're gonna move forward with the budget with the 63K revenue added to your line.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Now, can that be revenue, or does that, could it be cuts, or does it have to be revenue?
I'll leave it up to John, but, well, it actually, yeah, it has to be revenue.
I mean,
Because we've got it
You have to adopt the
listed,
expenditure appropriation,
yeah,
so you can't change
yes.
it before the 20th.
I'll put
Yeah.
tin cups on.
In like the next 2 weeks.
Good?
Good.
Okay.
Peter, before you let John go,
Yep.
while he's here, and this is not budget related, but, and since everyone's here, has there been any progress made on the site selection process for the medical field funding that we for the site? No.
Not that I'm aware of.
There hasn't been a meeting or a committee meeting for just a design concept or
So we have-
discussion of that, nothing's been kicked off.
I was just curious if progress had been made.
Budget takes precedence.
All right, I think, because Joanne has to stay anyway and lock the doors, we'll go to Sheila.
Whoops, sorry.
Oh, please.
On your table.
No, that's all right.
Get all carried away.
Keeps us awake.
Yes, it does. Hello, how's everybody tonight?
Good, Sheila.
It's good. So my budget is really, I'll go over where the increases are, and I can explain the increases. Temporary part-time has gone up due to the fact, same thing with,
Sheila, give us 1 second
Yeah.
to,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
this should be in
Page.
the,
page 183 in the budget book.
The under leisure services?
Yes.
okay, thank you.
So temporary part-time has gone up due to the fact of minimum wage increase. And minimum wage increase has been fairly significant. It was, last year, what was it, it was almost 70 cents an hour, and then this year it was about the same, right?
Yeah, it's about
So I mean, so in the last 2 years, it's gone up $1.40 an hour for minimum wage, which is a lot when you're dealing with the number of people that I
Yep.
have to staff the facility.
We've seen and heard that throughout the process,
Yes,
so,
you
yeah.
know, it's a tough thing, but we do what we have to do. Everything else, the next one is 5202, building maintenance. We've gone up because we have gone over that every year, I think, for the past 4 or 5 years, right, Sean? Jim? You know, I mean, cost of chemicals, chlorine, when I first started working at the pool, which was many years ago, I think chlorine was $80 a bucket. It is now $265 a bucket. Okay, and we go through 200 buckets a year, 250 buckets a year, maybe more than that. Okay, CO2 has gone up unbelievably. Every year I'm getting a thing, every, a couple of months we get something for increasing again. So all of the chemicals, everything that we use at the pool, the costs have gone up, so we've had to go up with the building maintenance. The next increase was in 5404, building property. We have gone over that. I mean, last year we were at $127,000 in that line, and I think we appropriated $40,000. So we've gone up to 80 because the pool's 20
It's
We've
gonna be
been
27.
we've been open for 22 years, but the pool has been there for 27 years. I don't know if people understand that, but it's almost a 30-year-old pool.
Yeah.
And it is a pool that sat for many years, it just sat there. It was appropriate, my daughter was in 4th grade when it was approved, it opened her senior year in high school. And the pool sat there, all mechanicals and everything else, nothing running through them, no water running through the pipes, nothing like that. So, and then we've also had, as you know, the 2 bubble collapses. Both times the pool sat outside for an entire winter. There was one point that was closed for a little over a year before we reopened again with a new structure that is up there. It's a pool, it's 27 years old, it has issues that are going to happen. We have a boiler that has been down, it'll be 2 years in August, the boiler has not been fixed, which is also why we have such a large cost for our gas and electric. Because we do have a cogen unit in there that would be running, and the electric costs would be much less. But it's not working because it is not connected to the big Welland McLean boiler that we have at the facility. And that Welland McLean boiler is a gas guzzler, and all it's doing is consuming a lot of. So once we get that going, because I don't know where we are in the process of it, but I know that somebody's been awarded the bid for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
There's a pre-construction meeting coming up
Okay.
next week.
So could that number come down because of that?
It should come down significantly,
Which one?
both the gas and the electric. Should come down. We put in that we need 35,000 because Jim, correct me if I'm
Okay.
wrong, but it was around $30,000. It was electricity when the cogen was working and the other unit was working. Okay?
Yeah. I don't know if that's being a little too aggressive, but.
Right.
So,
The price of gas might have gone up.
so what do you
Most
think,
of the
that
electricity.
there's a savings is there?
Most is the electricity.
It was not.
Most is the electricity. Electricity right now, we're at almost $100,000 we're spending on electricity this year. We should go down to about 35, 40.
Oh, so the 35 is the new number with
The new number
it
with
in
it-
place.
with everything in
So it's not
place.
a reduction from what you're
Correct.
proposing?
Correct. Okay?
And the 110 for gas that's the new number too, or is that?
Correct, because,
That doesn't change with the
No.
new system in place?
No. I mean, hopefully it will, but we're erring on the side of caution that it's going to maintain the same.
Okay.
But those are the places where I really increased. Everything else has pretty much stayed the same for the last few years. Revenue right now, we are on our 3rd year of having, where I think, knock on wood, I hate to say this and jinx it, but we are right now about $20,000 over what we were last year at this time. And 2023, we were at $740,000, somewhere around there. Last year, we were about $790,000. This year, we could come in at over $800,000 in revenue, if things keep trending the way that they are.
Sean, what do you have budgeted offhand for pool revenue?
So, I think it's 775.
775.
But,
770.
I increased that by, well, we've done 2 things. One is we assumed additional, it's on the last tab. I think I increased it by about $25,000 or $35,000. In my proposed budget, pool fees 809, so what's that? $34,000. So I budgeted 809, assuming there will be some adjustments, both hopefully additional trend in revenue, but also some fee adjustments to get to, I was trying to get the subsidy number down to
Yeah.
just $500,000. It was $304,000 the year before, but we were using some fund balance, and we had, and then also our fund balance got eaten into by the overruns with the electricity.
So right now, you've got in 809 in revenue.
Right. But then, when we were making our mill rate
Yeah.
worksheet the other day, we also, on this one, had an additional either expenditure cuts to the pool budget or revenue increases through increased fees, whether that's passes, season, meets,
Yep.
birthdays, whatever, all the above. We made an assumption that on the expenditure side, we could reduce the pool subsidy from 500,000 to 400,000. Again, that was a placeholder number, but that would be to try to get an extra $100,000.
Okay.
Similar, like we talked about with recreational, although that number was 63. On the pool side, we were going to try to get the pool subsidy down to 400,000, if that can be done.
Okay. I just, yeah, I want Sheila to be aware of, full disclosure, what we're kicking around is, so, okay.
And this is a good time to have that conversation, how realistic that is or could be. I think on the meats, when was the last time we raised the meats fee, or the
2
one?
years ago.
2 years
2 years
ago, we
ago.
sat down with the executive director of the
Yeah.
Southington Y.
So, but maybe you can explain the fee schedule with meats, we said it was 1,500 per.
So it's 1,500 per session, so if they have a meet that has 4 sessions in the weekend, we bring in $6,000 for this one meet.
And the pool's closed, right?
And the pool is closed, it's not open to the
So,
public.
we've heard kind of what we were talking about before with other, I mean, you hear that some of these meets do generate a large amount of money. I don't know how that compares
And
to
how many
others.
times, that's 6 or 7 times a year?
Yes, it used to be more. They have, USA Swimming doesn't do some of the big meets at the pool anymore because they just want it to be in one location. They were splitting locations. Swimming, $6,000 for the weekend. I don't know if we could go up. I can, feel the coaches out to see. I know that it'll be a hit for them, but we went up on revenue for lane usage also at the same time 2 years ago.
Can I ask a question? Do you have any kind of working relationship with the Y in terms of their members using the pool at all? Or has there been a discussion about that at all?
There has not.
Have you thought about that, a way of making, now that the Y is becoming, they bought a building in town, and they're going to be a big presence in our town now. Have you thought about maybe just talking with them about having their members, they pay us a certain amount of money, and those members can use our pool? And it may be a way to generate some revenue out of that, because I don't know how many members they have, but right now they're going to Southington. If they're Cheshire residents, they're members of the Y, there's no pool there, but we have a deal with Cheshire.
I know Doug pretty well. I could sit down and have a conversation with Doug.
I've talked with Doug a little bit about this, and I think he'd be open to it, and I think it's something that it could be a way to really generate some revenue and maybe even cut the town's subsidy in half. But I think it's a win-win for both of us and them, and I would like you to at least look into that.
I guess we would just have to kind of look at, what fee would they be charging, because if we have somebody who's not a Y member and they're paying $380, and somebody who is a Y member and they're coming in and they're paying $100, that's...
So, I'm sorry, and I don't want to slight you, but great minds think alike, but I had kind of the same conversation with Doug that you had, and the way our conversation went was that if someone comes in who's not a pool pass member, and we'd have to work out the details, but they show a Y membership, they can get in for the day for whatever incremental amount above their Y membership and use the pool facility for the day or whatever. But we would want to structure it so that we don't want people saying, oh, well, I'm a Y member, I don't need my pool pass now, and I can get it, this discounted rate, and we're hurting ourselves by doing it. So it would have to be, carefully thought out that, they could use it once a week, twice a week, whatever. Where a pool pass, I assume, is anytime the pool is open.
Correct.
So more conversation around it, but yeah, I think
because it could really
it's,
open a can of worms that could be,
I know.
Well, the Y also offer classes there and pay a fee for offering a aerobicized class or something that could be incorporated into their class structure and pay a fee for use. Not necessarily open up membership to the pool. But
See, I agree, that's probably good, but I'm curious, I think the Southington Y has a pool, right?
Correct.
So in theory, I don't know whether they're gonna wanna try to funnel people,
They maximize their pool by using our pool with their swim team. Or else they would have to host their swim team at their pool.
Well, the Southington has their own team. So there's the Southington Stingrays and there's Cheshire Sea Dogs. They're both Y teams. And yeah, the Cheshire Y rents the pool for their practices and stuff like that, and for all the swim meets that they run there.
2 years ago, they were reluctant about any fee increase.
Right.
But now in Southington, what do Southington residents do? How do they arrange that where they got a wide pool and they're Southington residents?
We have to join Y.
If they don't get any discount, I don't think, because they're Southington residents, I think
Right.
it's just the Southington.
Because it's a
Y.
private, it's the Y.
So the Southington residents are not allowed to use the white
You
pool?
can use it, but you have to pay for it, you gotta pay a membership, and I think the membership for a
Yeah.
family is over $1,000.
There's no town pool.
Is it?
Or a day fee,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, they worked that out there, and there may be a way to work it out here.
I mean, it's worth discussing, I just, I
Yeah.
think that with all of our people that do have memberships, if they turn around and see people getting in for a lesser rate, I don't know that it'll sit well with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And how's the liner?
Well, again,
Oh,
The liner's awesome,
yeah.
knock on wood.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, nothing for us at least, and we're looking at, we say this year's bad, but we're looking at another huge debt service spike next year. So nothing is off the table. I think it behooves us, we've said this is a 30-year-old building. I think we have to examine, what it looks like going forward. We subsidize, there's a subsidy that goes into the pool. It's not if the revenue and the expense were equal, we probably would, not even consider it. But it's something that you have to look at is, if we're looking at fireworks, we have to look at everything, so.
Absolutely.
Can I talk about the pool?
You can.
Thank you. So John sent me this fee schedule. It came to a total of $620,000 with the fees. What I noticed is if you're basically, I took the $80,000 off for the equipment that has to be replaced that really isn't ongoing. Comes about $1.2 million in expenses, and we're getting $620,000.
Well, that's just to April, that's not till the June 30th. So
Okay.
June 30th, we're gonna be over $800,000 probably.
Okay, so even at that, you're still way under.
Yeah.
Okay? So I looked at it, and things that really jumped out at me was, first of all, I'm not talking about any increases for town residents. We pay enough to go in and everything else, I think we're fine. The out-of-town people, we're subsidizing, because we're taking money out of our pocket to pay for them. If you really looked at it, we're probably paying 25% subsidy for every out-of-towner that comes into the building, okay? And the one complaint I hear when I talk to people is, and I don't know how they know it, but they just tell me, well, there's too many out-of-towners at the pool, okay? So I saw two things that sort of stuck out. The average family of 4 in the town, the average family is about 4.1 in the town of Cheshire, and we're selling family passes for non-residents for families of 6. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. We do it for families in town, families of 6. I think we should bring it to families of 4. And add a substantial amount for out-of-towners, I'm not talking in town, out-of-towners for that 5th or 6th person that's coming, okay? I also think that we should drastically raise the rates for the out-of-town people, because why should I subsidize someone from out of town who uses a town pool my taxes are paying for? So a couple of the areas, one of the big things is the day passes. Okay? No offense, for an adult to come all day long for $14, you can't do anything for $14. I don't think you could buy a McDonald's Happy Meal system for $14. You should double it to minimum 28. Same with the youth for the day pass is 14. You would substantially almost add $100,000 if you had the same people, and I don't believe anybody would mind paying $28 from out of town to come use the pool. It's a great facility and everything else. I also think that you're very low on your seasonal passes. Again, for out of towners, why am I subsidizing an out of towner for a seasonal pass? Okay, it doesn't make sense to me, and the same thing with annual passes. So you have seasonal pass and annual pass. Maybe, and I'm not sure seasonal passes when from when. I'm not sure the time.
Seasonal passes go from the day after Labor Day till Memorial Day and Memorial Day to Labor Day.
So you could like 2 different seasons?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And that was designed because when the pool originally opened, it was an outdoor pool in the summer.
Right.
So that's why we did the two passes.
Okay, so maybe you do season pass only for the summertime, and you raise the rates, but I think the out-of-towners need to pay substantially more to cover the operating costs, because I don't want to subsidize with my taxes someone from out of town to use a town pool. We paid a horrendous amount for the pool 20 years ago, we keep on paying it. I never expected it to be a break even. I know they told me 20 years ago that this thing was going to be a break even operation. There's no way it's ever going to be a break even operation. I'm okay with that. I don't mind subsidizing anybody in town. I do mind that we're subsidizing people out of town. I think it's horrendous. I think it's bad business. The other thing that I saw when I went through the budget, and I took the fact that the expenses I didn't look at. I don't know enough about running the pool to tell you chlorine costs this much or that, so I didn't care about that. The other thing I thought was that maybe we could start looking at, you don't have food at the pool to speak of. Why not rent that parking lot out there now that we have more space, okay? Out on the side for food trucks. You could rent, they will pay to be there. I think you could get maybe $10,000 to $15,000 a year just in food trucks to be there, because they got a ton of people using the pool. I think food trucks would definitely pay to be there on either a week, you pay them, they rent it by the week or they rent it by the month, and you do it from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I think it's a way to make extra revenue, $1 a buck, I hate to put it that way, but we need every dollar we can find. The other thing is, inside, you have that big wall where the building attaches to the pool. Why can't we sell advertising? Why can't local businesses buy advertising on it? We used to sell it in the fields. I remember I made the recommendation years ago for the, when you were doing the plays, where you bought the banner on top or the banners on the side. Why don't we do the same thing for the pool? What's the difference? If you pick up $4,000 or $5,000, it's $5,000 less than we're paying. Just my observation of things I think we can do, just to raise a couple of bucks, you know? And I'm sure there's a lot of other places where we could, I mean, I don't know what it costs for a birthday party, I don't know what it costs for, you know, do you raise the price to take a lesson from whatever it is, at $10 more? I mean, you gotta start running more of this business, and I think you'll have a much better operation, and then I don't think people will mind when this thing is tired, that we need to spend some capital on this over the next 4 or 5 years, because it's tired, the building is tired, the pool's tired. This way, at least you don't have this nut of $500,000 or $400,000 that the taxpayers gotta chip in, and find out that out-of-towners are coming in at a discount. Thank you.
Thank you.
The splash pad use, the splash pad is gonna be built right outside the pool, right?
That is.
Outside.
Right outside the
Outside,
pool.
yeah.
That's gonna be a draw. Is that something that we're gonna be charging? Is that part of the pool
We're gonna
recreation?
have to charge.
That's fantastic. So that's gonna bring in more revenue because it's a whole different beast, so to speak. You have families coming there during the day, probably every day in the summer, and so that'll be a little bit of a draw
Well,
of
no,
revenue.
again, there's expense associated with that though too, so.
Is the revenue for that put in here yet, or not? When is that gonna be done?
They're still finalizing the design. There's been a lot of different issues with the opportunities for discharging the water. So it's been delayed. So I wasn't comfortable yet putting a number, just don't yet.
So you're not sure it'll be ready for the summer?
This summer, it's not.
Doesn't have any cost
at all. No, it hasn't been put up yet,
So next year is where we'll figure out the revenue.
Are you looking at a break even for that or revenue?
So what we had discussed previously, I think we discussed a little bit last year too, was when it is operational, potentially my idea, but I don't know if it's a revenue issue, was if we could have resident day passes reduced, particularly for children. Because remember, there's no barrier between the pool and the splash pad. It's all in the pool facility. So we wanted to make it, and again, as a credit to the taxpayers, we're all fund those, the splash pad and the other pool improvements, that if we could have a resident rate for the pool for 1 year at least reduced, so that it's a little more of a spur of the moment. You don't have to, if you want to go to the splash pad only and you're not going to go to the swim, even the resident family day pass, like for 2 adults and 2 kids, a day pass, that day pass is gonna be $28-$90. I'd like to see it where that splash pad use, especially in the first year, is like more in the realm of, hey, maybe we'll go over there for 30 minutes, kids are gonna get bored or whatever, we're gonna leave. And that should probably not be in the $28 range, maybe more like the $8. If it could, it's ultimately a decision of the council, but.
It's all in one space, you're not going to replace who's using what, so
That's
separating out that.
right.
day
No,
pass
and
part.
they would be able to use the full facility as well. But again, we do have, you could keep or you could increase non-resident fees higher if you wanted to. We do have more, I think, numbers of non-residents, both the day passes and annual
Correct.
passes.
A pool is a draw for surrounding towns that don't have pools, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So, for that reason, you could justify lowering it if you wanted to for splash pad reasons. But that's, again, not a decision we're prepared to make yet because.
We're not in the lowering business this year.
We're also not in the lowering business.
Just with one thing, and thank you, Mr. Darter, for all that information. I think he has some pretty good ideas there to raise some revenue. When was the last time we changed the fee for out-of-towners?
All fees were, the last time they were changed was 2012, I believe.
13 years?
Yes.
Oh,
But it was every year the council did not want to raise them because of the amount of money we're bringing in. My concern is we're bringing in over $800,000 this year. We start raising fees, people are going to stop coming.
I get that, but I mean, I think 13 years without raising the fees.
I mean, I think that we can raise them slightly, I don't think that we need to go
But I definitely
astronomically
think that
high.
the out-of-towners should be paying a little bit more of the share of it. Do you happen to know how many out-of-towners do come in?
Yep. So, for day passes, adult residents, 1,073, adult non-residents, 3,128. Youth
So
and
we're
senior
getting more
residents.
non-residents
We
coming?
are getting
times.
more non-residents than we get residents in the city.
3 times.
A lot of residents have pools in their
So,
backyard.
youth and senior residents, 2,344. Youth and senior non-residents, 4,785.
So
There's a
it's-
huge difference.
So it is a bargain for
That's just day passes.
Yeah.
Also for, so an adult resident seasonal 54, non-resident 68.
That's pretty eye-opening. I think we really need to look at those fees because 13 years without a change, while all our expenses continue to go up on it. I mean, you just said the chlorine alone has gone up dramatically. We have to change those fees. And if few people decide not to go, so be it, but maybe the higher cost will offset the few people that don't come. But I think that's
You're
something.
gonna make room for doing a deal with the Y or something else as well, so.
Yeah, I think there's a way that you can really cut this town subsidy a lot with some of these ideas, and I thank you for doing that. Or I think that's,
I think fees should also reflect salary increases and supply increases and utility increases.
minimum wage has gone up so much.
With the increase in the price of electricity and gas, and the town carrying that increase solely for 13 years seems,
Yeah, I would ask that you guys, I mean, when you charge fees for things, I mean, we should be looking at these every 3 to 5 years to see, because I mean, things increase all the time, and to go 10 or 15 years without an increase, I think is not being fair to our taxpayers here. So I think we have to really look at that and make sure
I
that,
mean, we brought it up, I think, pretty much every year of going up on fees, and we've been told, no, don't do it.
Right.
So it's,
really, I don't remember saying.
Housekeeping, for the record, can you just give the clerk your address?
Sure, 474 Maple Avenue, Cheshire.
Thank you, Mr. All right, are we good with Sheila?
one thing, Sheila, you provided my son his first job ever,
Oh.
and I just want to thank you for that, because it was Jake Dowell, I don't know if you remember him.
I do know Jake, how's he doing?
He's awesome.
Yeah.
And what you provide the kids that work there is invaluable. And he was teaching little kids how to swim.
Yes, he was.
And he was saving little kids, and he was practicing his leadership skills. And he's a tiny guy, and it just gave him so much.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Kids, that's-
He was saving little kids. He saved some little
Well,
kids.
some of you may not know that, but we have saves almost every day, so.
Yeah.
A lot of really noses too. He said.
Thank you, Sheila.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
He was sick a lot though. Those little kids, they are petri dishes.
They are petri dishes. Your immune system gets really boosted though if you go on.
Yeah.
He didn't even sick.
Joanne, thank you for your patience.
No problem.
everybody, welcome
Welcome
to
to
our
your home.
place.
Your home.
Yes,
Home away from home.
I
Yeah.
promise I will be
See ya.
fast.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you to my colleagues, thank you to my bosses, my coworkers, and thank you to the town council members for volunteering your time to work on this very hard task you have, particularly this year on the town budget. Our lights are bright, but look up. I'm looking for more supplies to put on the ceiling.
Yeah.
This looked like a lot when
I'm
they started
looking, I'm
out,
looking.
and then they dispersed. So any old rusty thing you have in your basement, anything with age, I'll take it, drop it off. I wanted to keep the ceiling open, so I showed the integrity of the 1850 building. And I just want a lot up there that represents history and art. We've been busy since our move last June, as we began offering classes almost immediately. And we've barely taken a pause in 10 months. Adding a third position to our small staff of an administrative assistant was essential. And while training continues in all aspects of running the school, we benefit from the IT skills this person possesses through increased publicity on social media sites, all leading to higher enrollment figures. Our spring session 1 currently hosts 32 classes and 225 weekly students aged preschool through adult. Classes run Monday through Wednesday from 9 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, and on Thursdays from 9 until 6. Occasional Friday nights, classes run Saturdays from 9 to 2, and about every other Sunday the same. This beautiful new location is popular. Parking has not been an issue. Our landlords, Ball and Socket, are always supportive and quick to respond to any problem. We have been financially responsible and fiscally responsible for setting up the art school, repainting and reusing our old chairs that you're sitting in tonight, purchasing these inexpensive tables, and applying creative methods to keeping costs down. As with every department, rising costs are a challenge. Last Wednesday, we had our well-attended Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting ceremony, followed by the Memorial Hall opening, and I hope you all have a chance to see that tonight. It was a heartfelt event as we honored 23 former students who had attended classes here for over the last 2 decades. And we invite the public to visit the Memorial Hall artwork and understand the importance of its existence with the adage, life is short, but art is long. As of today, current revenue from classes and workshops is $156,000. With 11 weeks to go in this fiscal year, we're only $18,000 short of the new target revenue of $175,000 you asked us to accomplish this year.
We'd just like to highlight that we thought that was a bit of a reach last year, and I
Yeah.
just commend Joanne for being well on track to hit that.
Nicely.
So to accomplish this, we increased class days in fall and spring from 1 session of 6 to 7 weeks to 2 sessions of 5 weeks for children and 6 weeks for adults. By doing it that way, instead of stretching it out, it lessens the financial stress for somebody to write that check or put that credit card in to take a class. People will pay more often if it's slightly less, but for us, it added weeks and weeks onto our revenue. So that's the way to go, I think. It's a lot more work for the staff, but I do agree with John about my rec. Things are going well with that, and it's well worth it for the additional revenue. We increased the length of summer programs in children's art camps beginning earlier. Spring session 2 begins May 3rd and ends June 16th, and summer begins in June 23rd, and programs run through August 15th. So this will leave me short of the program services line, but I'll pull from other lines to cover that this year, the salaries. I think on what you talked about tonight, and I said you're thinking about how we run our programs, I look at that all the time. On Sundays, I don't want to pay a building supervisor, even if it's a team for minimum wage, and only run one program. The way I make money is to have as many programs running at once. And the happiest is when I walk through this building and I have classes running in all 3 rooms.
So for Friday nights, I will often cancel if I have one class, if it's not covering the cost of the teachers and making money for this town. I want 3 things run on Friday nights. That's the way to go. And it helps too if you can offer things for classes while the parents have things. So you can split them up into 2 areas. So, I don't have a budget addition on this line, but I just want to talk about the Centas Supply Company, and I know Sheila uses them at the pool. I want to take out my purchase of waterproof containers for supplies for the set shop trailers, and instead sign a 1-year contract with the Centas Supply Company for $1,800 to take care of toilet paper, paper towels, and liquid soap, and also add long black mats in our hallway that will be much safer and changed every 3 months. You'll see the reason for my request when you visit our bathrooms, because they have no paper towel dispensers or toilet paper holders. Instead, we use stands for toilet paper, and the brand provided by the town doesn't fit. I make a lot of trips to Costco to purchase toilet paper. We try to reuse it, but it just doesn't go that far, no matter what brand you use. I'm only kidding.
That's what I thought you said. Thanks for clarifying.
Is that the 5203, the supplies, cups for water, outside vendor for paper towels and toilet paper?
Yeah. So what I did with Centas is I cut them back to only come like once a month. They provide the holders for the toilet paper, the paper towels. They bring the supplies, they come and put it in. So we're not paying for any of the paper goods, the soap, the rugs. It's $156 a month. So about $1,900 a year. It's no change to my budget request, but I just wanted to tell you I want to redistribute money in my budget. And it's just not good use of my time. Restocking the bathroom continually. I could be doing much more creative things. But I do have one budget increase to ask for tonight. It's to Revive Arts Day. I don't know how many of you Revive Arts Day. Remember Arts Day? It ran for 32 years until we were canceled just prior to the COVID.
Is that the one that was at Cheshire Academy? Yeah.
And this following year, it would be at the youth center. I'm requesting $2,400 in addition to add to the 408 program services line for Arts Day.
So right now the request is 80,000, that would be how many more, 4,800, what'd you say?
Well, I think Sean has approved it to 75,000, so
Right.
we could increase that another 2,400. That's what the committee has asked for.
That's for next year, right?
Right, it's from March of 2026, so if we put it into that.
What's the revenue that we put in there?
So if you go to, well, actually, no, I just pulled up on here. We budgeted 175 this year, and when we went through the other night, we left it at 175. So we're tracking towards 176 as of the last time we ran this for March. That you just heard, we're at 150, I'm sorry, you said
157, and we've got 11 more weeks to go, so I'm really hopeful I can bring in that extra 18,000.
So let's push the revenue to 180 and add in the program supplies and the Centas contract.
Sounds good to me.
All right, challenge. Another challenge thrown down.
I like these challenges because I
You're the one who got an increase.
I can see that just keeping programs running when I can have already staff here is the way to go to keep our costs down. It's the way to go.
If you have any surplus toilet paper, paper towels, can you send it to town hall?
Yeah.
We're cutting theirs.
John and
We can give you a web
Elizabeth,
list
you
first.
aware that March of next year, you're gonna have Arts Day at the Youth Center?
We
Okay,
already
I just
talked-
wanted to.
No, we talked about it already.
He's raising
There were
funds
no,
for the
there were, yeah, there were no elbows or
Food
anything.
trucks outside.
Yeah.
The building
I love
supervisor's
food
gonna be
trucks.
expensive.
But thank you all. Thank you for signing the lease that's as long. And whenever we have a state board here, you're the envy of every other community.
I know yeah, well, Sustainable CT, we received extra points because we're one of the few municipalities that provides this kind of resource. And so thank you for your years and years of service.
And I plan to repeat the monetization survey that I don't know if the board members have heard about this before, that I had given paper for people to fill out, where did they spend money in Cheshire, because 50% of our students are from out of town, and how much did they spend? What did they spend at the gas station, at restaurants?
Sweet Clods.
Sweet Clods,
Yes.
on everything they could think of.
Kellyanne's
And it
favorite,
was
yeah.
shocking how much money people spend because they're already in town. So they get gas, they go out to eat, they buy their groceries. It's just wonderful.
I would add to that, on Wednesday, actually Peter and I were invited.
I was gonna
to
say
join
the same thing,
The
John, yeah.
DECD commissioner, I'm sorry, this is the second time.
No, go ahead.
But the DECD commissioner was invited down by Woonsocket to tour the site. Obviously, Woonsocket has a lot of brownfield grants that they administer and other connections that they're hoping Perfect World DECD commissioner to give those loans. And part of that pitch and showing the collaboration with the town, I joined, and it was just a small group of us. We did end up for a little ice cream downstairs, but classes were going on both in this room and down the hall.
I was gonna say,
I
yeah,
took some
there were
great
two
photos.
classes going on.
The
That-
commissioner took a
that's the
selfie
thing.
right around there, and
Oh,
the
great
class
and all
loved it.
clear.
It was great, and we got to see that amazing little green device there that
Yeah.
shows it's a camera that shows what the instructor is working on. It's on the screen. But he was very impressed, and also that expansive sort of economic development vision that we have collectively for the whole area here. So anyway, that was on Wednesday, and I think it went very well.
O'Keefe, right?
Dan O'Keefe.
I work with him all the time.
Yeah, it's
So, Joanne, thank you for hosting.
Thank you.
Counselors, housekeeping items. I know we have next Wednesday executive session. Who is available for Tuesday next week? Well, let's put it, since I'm seeing no hands, who isn't available for Tuesday next week?
I have it in my calendar for Tuesday and Wednesday.
Beautiful.
Yeah, figured it already.
So, good. All right, so,
As long as it's like a 7 o'clock start.
Yeah.
So what's that?
If it's a 7 o'clock start, I think it's there.
On Tuesday? Okay, so I think the plan is to do one more budget look Tuesday. Come with your last final offer. David, is the,
22nd?
yeah, is the 22nd good for you?
Yes, for adoption.
Yeah.
Of course.
Everybody else good for 22nd, Tuesday the 22nd?
7 o'clock?
Yeah,
Yes.
I had on my calendar, we already had something booked in that day. Okay.
yeah. I think because we did tonight, I think we'll forego the public information session. So the plan is next Tuesday, the 15th, tax day, perfect. Tax day, we finalize, 22nd, we vote, that gives staff a week to put everything together.
Right, the resolutions do take time. Yeah, so we don't have, just so everyone's on the same page, we need to really, if we're doing adoption on the 22nd, we need to finalize things on the 15th.
Yes,
So you can run all the resolutions.
that is the plan.
That works for us.
Right after a Boulder Knoll ribbon cutting.
There you go. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Hearing none, I'll call for motion.
So moved.
Take home your beautiful collection.
Who is did you get the motion second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Wait, who did these?